Hello, my loves. This is your August soul message. The title for this one is Softening Edges. So the way that I see this is we're kind of continuing the theme from June and July, spirals of light and portals of love. It's that same theme of softening the walls of your heart and softening the edges. So the image today is exactly, or the image for this one is exactly what I saw, ribbon candy. So initially I saw a square, then it became a circle, then it became a mandala with these softening edges and the loops. That's how I knew that it was softening edges. And then I kept following that and I kept seeing this pattern, and it's obviously it's a figure eight. It just goes do, 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 do. So if you look at ribbon candy, that was the image that came, and I was like, oh. And what they're trying to teach us is, if you look at the image of ribbon candy, you can see that you could say that the path was straight because it's all connected, but it goes down, it loops back up, it connects with where you were, then it loops back around, it connects with where you were. You know what I'm saying? It just keeps moving. And it makes me think of, I said it in the blog, maybe I'll forget all of the references, but Pablo Coelho's book, The Alchemist, it makes me think of that. It makes me think of the Talking Heads song, how did I get here? And the other one, right when I started writing the blog, like the line from Pretty Woman, one of my favorite, so many favorite movies, but that's one of my favorite ones. And there's a scene where she's at the opera and she's trying to work her glasses, and she's trying to flip them up, and she's like, mine are broken, these are broken. And they're not broken, she just hasn't flipped them all the way over to be held by the stand. And that image and that energy and that metaphor is so where we are. It's like we have everything we need, we have all the tools, we're just sort of misappropriating them, and we're not realizing how actually powerful we are. We're not realizing how powerful the technology of our physical body is, and how it connects us to our divinity and our spirituality and all of these things. And while I'm on that, the timing is just so incredible. I just uploaded, finally, I've been working on it for months, my 40-day Learn to Chant challenge on Insight Timer. It is in the review process right now, so there is a link. Where did I put it? Well, I think it's in my newsletter, but there was a link in my stories, but I think it's probably gone now. Anyways, as soon as it's approved, it will show up on Insight Timer, and if you follow me, it will send you a notification. But the timing of it could not be more perfect, because chanting is using the technology of your body, and you use the chant as you're tuning your instrument. And there's so many beautiful practices in that are connected to this month's theme. And again, you can't make this shit up. I had no idea that this was going to be the theme. I had no idea that was when the chant would be ready to get uploaded. So they say it usually takes about a week. So stay tuned for that. And then let me just check my notes here. Heart softening, grief, letting go of hiding, and coming back together. These are kind of the themes that are being woven through. So the heart softening, the heart softening and the grief go together, because when we are letting go of old versions of ourselves, we're letting go of ways that we wore a mask and we projected something other than who we are out into the world. And then by doing that, we're being matched with the energy that we're projecting, not the energy of our authentic selves. And that theme also came up in the full moon in Aquarius that I just recorded yesterday. That's available in the shop. If you have not ever done one of my moon ceremonies, it is an awesome opportunity to connect with working with me in a very inexpensive manner, even free. The very first time you come, you can use the code NEWBIE, NEWBIE, to do that. They're about an hour long, and the first half an hour of it is me talking about the energy, astrology, and kind of what I'm intuiting the same way that I do in these messages. And then the second half of it is a group healing session. So check that out if you're interested. There was a lot of beautiful inner child work going on. But here's the thing about the softening of the heart and the grief. When you are holding a container, so imagine a square box around your heart, when you're holding a container in place to essentially protect yourself, because we've all been wounded, we've all been hurt, and then we catalog those wounds and those hurts, and like a card catalog, and we're trying to remember, like, okay, I got hurt doing that, I got hurt doing that, I got hurt doing that. And so we pull our tentacles back and we're like, okay, I'm not going to do that again, I'm not going to do that again, I'm not going to do that again. And eventually you live in this tiny little box where you have no freedom because you're terrified to do anything that you've done before where you've got hurt. And that's not where the magic lives. The magic lives in doing it again anyway, learning from your mistakes and continuing to go. There's The Alchemist again. And if you have not read that book, I mean, that is like a serious assignment for human beings. So go do that. And then the letting go of hiding. So this also came through in the full moon ceremony, but there is the essence of the mask, and this idea of like the mask that we wear, and that projecting out to something else. And then we end up calling in people that don't really match who we are because we're not showing up as who we really are. And so there's a big calling for that. And if you can't tell already, like, grief sits right in there, because as the walls of our heart are softening and we're realizing, like, with that ribbon candy again, it's like, oh, okay, I thought I needed to do this, but it actually means I'm allowed to do this and that and the other thing. And so you see how we hold ourselves by these standards that say we can only go here, we can only do this, da 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 da, and then we limit ourselves, and we have to stop doing that because it's not allowing the full authentic version of ourselves to be revealed. And then the coming back together thing, this community thing, is so rich right now. I think probably because of, all the COVID stuff too, but, and being separated for such a long time, but it's not even just that. I've been feeling this drumbeat of women coming together and working together in circle ceremony for years. It's been the backdrop of a lot of my work, women's circles, intuitive collage, even the moon ceremonies. That's what it's all about, is this rhythmic coming together on a routine. This is why I was told years ago, I can't remember when I started it, but I used to hold women's circles just at random whenever my schedule allowed. And then I heard, no, these have to be done in sync with the moon cycles, because we're so out of sync with rhythm and timing and the earth and nature and all these things. And so that's actually a theme this month too. But we have to start coming back. And so there's this rhythm of the drum beat that mimics the beat of our heart and mimics the beat of the earth's heartbeat as well. And we come back into our true authentic nature when we do that. And so I invite you always and forever to come to moon ceremonies. Women's Circle and Intuitive Collage happen once a month, and those are live on Zoom. And I'm also looking at, if you're in Portland, I'm looking at doing some in-person women's circles again, because we just got to come back into the physical. And if you're interested in that level of community and communion, my intuitive mentorship, that's a 9-month program. It is online, one Saturday a month from September to April. And then in May, we do a weekend retreat at the Oregon coast in person, connecting those dots. Because the thing is, it's becoming more that our community is not in our local area. It's becoming more that, especially light workers, empaths, intuitive healers, because we are lighting the grid on the planet by living in different areas. So when we come together online, we're lighting the planet from where we were. So that's the global aspect. And then when we come together in person, we bring it local. And we can also take what we've learned from our global community and then bring it out into our local community as well. So it works both ways. So consider joining that. There's a YouTube video about that, and there's some information on the community events page of my website. But we're doing this winding road travel. We've always been doing it. We just think it's linear, and we have an idea that, like, oh, I'm on a path and it's going straight. It's never been straight. But now we're starting to see that. It's like the, how do I even want to say it? It's like the minerals of the soil are informing us and letting us know, like, it's calling us really back to our authentic nature and to the power of what we're doing here. Like the power of the fact that we are spiritual beings in a human body for a very short period of time, and then we go back to being spiritual. And this came up in Moon Ceremony too, but it's wild how we don't marvel at that every single day. That when we wake up and we open our eyes and we look around, that we don't just go, oh my God, I get to do this again. And we have such a, like a challenging relationship with it, thinking that it's hard. And the message that I'm getting is that's because we make it hard. Perfect time for Barbie to come out, because it's reminding us of play and letting us be free in that way. So let me just check my notes here and see if there's anything more I wanted to say. All connecting, all going somewhere, but not in a straight line. That's the message of the windy road and the candy ribbon. Or ribbon candy, however you say that. And so, let me see. How do I want to say this? It's like there's magic and there's grief and there's pain sitting side by side. There's that quote, I can't remember who it was from, that I heard years ago. Pain and joy live in the same chamber of the heart. And if you suffocate or you suppress pain, you also suppress joy. And so we have to start lifting the lid on our pain and suffering and let it release. That's also a theme that comes up in the 40-day Learn to Chant Challenge. It's just beautiful, exquisite work. It came to me in 2009 when I was going through a really rough time, and it completely transformed my life. So I highly recommend going to check that out. Okay, couple things, 3 things that came forward to focus on this month to help us kind of anchor the energy that's coming in. And I think it's also to help us take care of our tender hearts as we're letting go of these ideas about ourselves, about others, about the world that we thought we were so unbelievably sure of. And now there's a little bit of this like falling off the pedestal where we're like, oh my God, what I thought I knew to be absolutely and completely true isn't. And so what does that mean? And so there's a lot of integration energy. There's a lot of need for sleep and rest and just connecting with nature and the earth. And that's a theme I'll bring up in just a second. So the first one is strength training. And it's this idea of coming back to a committed routine over and over and over again. In the 40-day Learn to Chant Challenge, I actually referenced Karate Kid and the wax on, wax off thing. If you've seen The Bear, the series, the 2nd season, the Forks episode is what I'm talking about. It's the coming back to this routine that you're showing up every day, and maybe it seems like some dumb task that you don't want to do, like chanting. Maybe you think like, oh, that's not necessary, whatever. But the routine of it is the strength training, whether it's for your mind or your body or whatever. And we're being called to that right now, either in exercise, in mantra, in meditation, something that you are committing to and you're coming to a regular practice every day. Number one, you're showing yourself that you have commitment. You have the dedication and the determination to do it. Number two, you're showing up every day not knowing what you're going to receive, but magic happens when you keep doing it. Just like meditation, you might not have some incredible aha moment in the moment of meditation, but maybe 10 days later you have this opening that you're just like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way. And it's the result of meditation, but you don't see it in the moment. And we're being called to step into that level of commitment, and because it's not about the task at hand, although the task at hand produces the magic, but it's about saying, I love myself enough to commit to this because I'm doing it for myself more than anything else. Just to say, I can do it. Just to say, I love myself enough to do that. So it's really a self-love practice, but it's strength training. Because as you are diving into that practice repetitively, all of the resistance that sits around the outside of it, just like the softening edges of the heart, fall away. When you commit to this thing over and over and over again, everything that's not that thing or resists that thing is going to fall away naturally. And that's the magic and beauty of it. The second thing is community. I already talked about this a little bit. And definitely, if you're feeling called, consider doing the intuitive mentorship, the 9-month program, and or consider joining the Wild Moon community, which is a combination. There's 3 tiers now. So you can join at the first tier, which is the Moon Lovers, and that's just moon ceremonies, new and full moon every month. The second tier is Circle Lovers. That is just for Women's Circle and Intuitive Collage if you don't want to do the moon ceremonies. And then the all-inclusive is all of it. And there's also an online private group that lives on my website where you can connect to other women in the group that are all doing this. And it's beautiful, magical work. So there's that available as well at a lower cost than the mentorship. So consider that. But there's this sense of community. Like, we have to remember, you know, Brené Brown says all the time, we're hardwired for connection. And especially with COVID and all of the social distancing, it's like we've almost gotten afraid of each other. And we need to really bring in that fun, the rhythm of like the childlike wonder and, you know, sleepovers and mainlining friendship and hanging out and doing absolutely nothing but just enjoying each other's company. It doesn't have to be, you know, task oriented. So that community thing is coming up. And then the third thing is nature. And this just makes me want to cry. I wrote this in the blog, and so you can read more about it there because I probably won't remember it exactly. But this is what came to me the other day that I just is so stunningly beautiful and painful at the same time to think about. Imagine your nature. Imagine you are Mother Nature. Imagine you are the trees and the grass and the foliage and all this stuff. And you put on this exquisite dance every year of the seasons. You let go of what doesn't serve you by letting the leaves fall. You bring the snow for peace. You go all the way into yourself to do this introspective work. You come back out with this regeneration and this expression of the leaves. And you provide this beautiful shade for all of these humans that cohabitate with you in the midst of all this heat while she's cooking off what no longer serves her. And these humans that you're doing this performance for never notice you. And they don't acknowledge you, and they walk by you every day without actually noticing you. And we have to turn this around, and we have to start making nature part of what we're doing. In the teachings of the medicine wheel, it is taught that there are 5 children of Mother Earth: plants, animals, minerals, humans, and the ancestors. And we're all cohabitating all the time. And I would say that 4 of those are cohabitating all the time, and humans are as well. But we've gotten so divorced. We've been taught away from it, and we live in our little homes or our cubicles or whatever, and we live on paved streets that disconnect us from the raw earth and the soil. And we need to be doing earthing practice and standing with our bare feet on the ground in all seasons. I'm not good at doing this in the fall and winter, but I really want to work on it, you know, in the fall as we move into it, and try to practice this and just try to talk to the trees, pause and stop and say, thank you for providing the shade. Thank you. I so appreciate you. I enjoy looking out at my window at you every day as I'm looking at this beautiful one that sits outside of my house. And, you know, we have to start doing that because we are nature, and nature is always talking to us and always telling us what is the next right divine action if we're willing to listen. And also, what a wild idea to actually ask it what it needs from us. Hey tree, what can I do for you? What can I do to honor you? Okay, maybe you want to be watered. That's not something we typically think of doing, but maybe you do that as a ritual, a practice to go water a tree. You know, whatever it says that it wants. Maybe it just wants to sit with you and commune and share who it is with you, right? So just start tuning into that level of maybe you think it's weird, but if you're listening to my video, you probably don't think it's weird. Okay, and I love you for it. All right, let's talk about the oils, and then I'll pull a card. So the oil for this month, if you're working with straight oils and with Young Living, is Cistus, okay? I know we've had this one not too long ago, I think, but I'll talk about it because it's just so friggin' amazing. Okay, Cistus, aka Rock Rose. This is the first oil that I ever worked with. I needed it desperately at the time. This is the oil of boundaries. So when we are talking about strength training, when we're talking about committing to something, when we're talking about learning to walk away from codependence and to learn the lesson of where we end and someone else begins and vice versa, so that we don't inadvertently take responsibility for other people's stuff that isn't ours, this is the one to work with. It's one of the thicker oils. So if you're going to diffuse it, actually, I don't remember how thick it is. Oh no, it's coming out. So you don't need a dropper lid. Oh my God, let me just smell this. It's so friggin' amazing. So whenever you're working with oils, you can do what's called a scent tent, which is what I just did. A couple drops here, you rub it together, and then you inhale. You can also then wipe it, you know, whatever residue you have left, like wipe it on around you. You can do a drop right here at that hollow, at the collarbone, that hollow right there. That's where, when you apply an essential oil there, it's like you are, you know, taking a supplement. It's taken up that way. And of course you can diffuse it as well. Cistus, I will let you know, will stain the inside of your diffuser though. It's worth it because it smells amazing. So this is the one from Young Living. If you don't have an account, you can find the link in my Instagram, on my webpage, all the good stuff on their aromatherapy page. Highly, highly, highly recommend this one. I love it. Okay, if you don't want to work with the individual oil and or you don't have a Young Living account yet, and I ask you why, because it's amazing. It's my favorite products. I've literally switched out everything in my home for it. You can also work with my Apothecary blend Saturn, because Cistus is the top note in this blend. So this is amazing. Saturn, of course, is all about discipline, right? It's all about discipline and determination and boundaries and boundaring your time. Think of the planet that has rings around it. It's the only one that has rings around it. You know, nature's constantly telling us the energetic properties. The other two I would recommend working with, oh shoot, there was a third one. I forgot to bring down here, but solar plexus would be another great one, because that is all about will, determination, boundaries. Another one I would recommend for this month is Mercury, because we do have a Mercury retrograde coming up. Did I write the dates down? Okay, Mercury retrograde, August 23rd to September 13. However, Mercury retrograde always has a 3-week setup phase and a 3-week integration phase at the end. So we're already in it at the top of August here when I'm recording. And then we also have a Venus retrograde already happening July 22nd to September 3rd. So I'm going to suggest Venus as well. So we have themes with all of that. Mercury being the planet of communication, language, travel, all of these things. So that's in review. Venus is in review as well. Venus is all about harmony, and you know, it's the love planet. It's all about relationships. So we're reviewing our love relationships, how we do love, how we do all of these things, right? And then I did hear Chani Nicholas, I follow her as an astrologer for information here and there, and I did hear her say recently that as soon as this Mercury retrograde starts, technically August 23rd, we will have 6 planets in retrograde at one time. So we got a lot of review energy coming up, okay? I'm just saying. Okay, what card is coming? These are just hopping all over the place. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one. Sublimination. Have we gotten this card before? I think I have gotten this card before, but I don't remember if it was in one of the ceremonies here, or if it was in a moon, if it was in Women's Circle. Let's see. Oh, by the way, speaking of Women's Circle and the membership, if it is not abundantly clear, I should say, you do not have to join the Wild Moon community to do any of that stuff. You can come at any time to any one of those individual events or the moon ceremony recordings. I just did the membership so that people could connect online and also make it easier to get all the stuff automatically. Okay, Sublimination. Let me show you the card. A beautiful dove, purple. And I don't really know what that thing is at the bottom. It almost looks like a movie wheel spinning around in outer space. I friggin' love it. Okay. Sublimination, elevation, rising, flight. Sublimatio is the great alchemical operation of air, which, speaking of, full moon in Aquarius is an air sign we just had today. It occurs when there is enough heat to change a solid substance into a gas, causing it to rise up, up, and away. Therefore, when sublimination is present, there is an aspect of celebrated elevation, of ascending above and gaining a greater perspective. Okay, I didn't say this, but that is 100% the energy of this month also. The whole purpose is that we're elevating in our frequency. And as I said, when Pluto goes back into Aquarius in January, it will be there for 20 years. It will be a 20-year cycle of a sign that is the ruler of energy. So collectively, Pluto is responsible for collective energy. When we're in that cycle, and we got a preview of it for the first part of this year, and then now it went back into Capricorn until January. The next 20 years are going to be about this. So we're going to start learning that we are nothing but energy, 99.99999% energy, and we're only 0.00001% matter. We're going to start learning how important frequency is. We're going to start learning how important our energy field is, taking care of that, how our thoughts, feelings, ideas program the water in our body and make manifest into the physical in ways that we don't even realize. All right, back to the card. Therefore, when sublimination is present, there is an aspect of celebrated elevation, of ascending above and gaining a higher perspective. I said that already. Birds in flight, mountain peaks, ladders, and balloons are all sublimination. Why can't I say that? Sublimacio. They're all Sublimacio images. As with all the operations, Sublimacio has a shadow potential. Through ascension, there's a risk of separating from others, of sensing oneself higher or above. This risk is particularly great in spiritual traditions that offer a linear model of achievement. Okay, I can't even handle it. Here we're talking about the ribbon candy. It's not a straight line. It's like this. It's circular. It goes all over the place. But this also brings up something I call kind of the guru vibe, where and it can be a spiritual teacher, yoga teacher, doctor, physician. Well, I said that, minister, like whatever, any person in power. Let me just say right here, right now, anyone in power should always be pointing you back to yourself. And if they're not doing that, they're not in it for you, they're in it for themselves, and it's ego driven. Pick up your backpack and get the hell out of there. It's not working out. And that's this thing about, like, as you know, spiritual teachers, like, you start to get a following, and then it's like, oh, it becomes all ego, and you think it's about you, and you forget that it's not about you. It's about service and spirit coming through you, and we are just the conduits. Okay, I digress. So the risk is particularly great in spiritual traditions that offer a linear model of achievement. The divine alchemist rises humbly and supports the upliftment of others, always in touch with the cycle of humanity. Service is the natural balancing agent for Sublimacio. It may be the next rung on your ladder. I mean, I have been directly inside of this energy as an energy healer, as a spiritual teacher, as a mentor, and, you know, working with social media and working with all these things. Like, we can tend to, speaking of the mask, we can tend to feel like we have to look professional or we have to do a certain thing, and we kind of create this box around ourselves. And what I'm learning more and more is, no, I have to show up in my authentic self and just be who I am, because number one, that's how I serve, and number two, it helps me stay focused on service rather than putting myself in it and feeling like, you know, somehow I'm supposed to be important in all of it, or I'm supposed to be doing something right, or that it's about me. It's not about me at all. Okay, to go deeper, watch the final scene of The Red Balloon by Albert Lamouris. I know we got this card recently, I just can't remember when. To ponder the magic of air travel. Disassociation is an example of Sublimacio in shadow. When this card appears, reconnect with the feelings you'd rather avoid. Be with them rather than rising above them. This is the entire purpose and theme behind my 40-day Learn to Chant challenge. That's exactly what it is about, communing with the difficult energy and all of the buried, suppressed feelings that we have that we've been holding under the surface. Hike up a mountain or gaze out an airplane window. Notice Sublimacio occurring within you or within. You may feel wonder, awe, or a shift in perspective. Use this energy to write or draw. Okay, if anyone remembers when we got this card, for the love of all that's holy, please put a comment on YouTube and let me know. I don't post these to Instagram anymore because they're too long and they take for friggin' ever to load. So there you go. I love you so much. Just consider everything I've said. Connection, community, belonging. This other thing about cystis is it helps this wound around belonging because of boundaries. It's closely connected to cedarwood is really the energy about community and connection and belonging, but they sort of work across the aisle, so to speak, because they connect with one another. If you don't feel like you have good boundaries, it's hard to lean into community and groups. And that's another reason why I feel so called to hold groups of women, because we all have this sense of, we've all been burned in that scenario by judgment and blame and criticism, and we have to rewrite that story. And speaking of rewriting the story, go listen to my Yoga Nidra, also on Insight Timer, called Embracing the Hag. It's all about rewriting your story and letting go of the versions of your old story about yourself and also the stories that others hold you to. So I love you so much. Have a wonderful month. Reach out always with any questions. If you want to book a free consult to go over oils, if you're like, hey, I'm interested in Young Living, I really want to create an account, I want to order a starter kit, or you want like specific items, you're like, I'm in the shits with this and I need help with this or whatever, I can point you towards that. It's my favorite thing ever. And if you need help with apothecary oils, if you want to book a free consult for intuitive healing sessions because you want to know what it's about, if you want to come to moon ceremonies, women's circle, all the things, they're always available to you. And I'm going to try to do better about getting the information about that out into the world, because I'm great at creating the content and doing all that, and I haven't been so great at being verbal about sharing it and saying, hey, come join me, invite me, and we need like 20 invites to something before we remember to put it on our calendar and go and show up. So, and get on my newsletter for all the announcements if you're not already. Okay, I love you so much. Have a wonderful month. Namaste.